What's up, guys? Here are my predictions for Bellator 214 happening this Saturday. Now, the main event is really the fight that most people are going to be looking forward to. Erin Pico's on the card, as well as the co-main event, which is, again, a big prospect in MMA who is making waves in Bellator. But first and quickly, I'm going to go over the Jake Hager versus JW Keizer fight. Now, Jake Hager is a high-level wrestler from the University of Oklahoma, where he was an All-American. He set the Oklahoma record for most pins in a season, which was 30. And other than that, we don't know much about him, besides he was in pro wrestling. He's a very, very big guy, 6'7", athletic guy, and that's just automatically going to put him at an advantage over a guy like Keizer, who is not so athletic, not the biggest guy, and doesn't have the credentials that Hager has when it comes to any other combat sport, any other martial art. Now, Keizer is the more experienced guy when it comes to MMA because he does have one professional fight, but Hager has a long time history with wrestling. So he is used to wrestling or competing against high-level competition, and he is from pro wrestling with big lights, big crowds, all that sort of stuff, which he's more used to. I don't think the jitters going into Bellator is going to get to him like it probably will to Keizer, because even though Keizer is more experienced in MMA, he only has one pro fight. Now, right away, I'm going to have to say I have to go with Jake Hager on this one because of his credentials, of his wrestling, because he's more athletic, because he's bigger. I believe he's going to learn things a lot quicker. Keizer really just swings wildly, throws haymakers, hooks. He does look like he has some pop in his strikes, but doesn't set things up, doesn't pressure the opponent too much, doesn't really have good footwork or anything like that. Wrestling isn't the greatest as well, and he just tries to counter and tries to just swing at the opponent with full commitment. That can catch a guy like Hager, but I don't think Hager's going to be in the way. I think he's just going to take down Keizer and probably win by TKO. So I'm going to go with Hager, and I'm going to go by a third round TKO doing a ground and pound. And then we go to Erin Pico versus Henry Corrales. This should be a pretty good fight. You got both fighters who like to stand for the most part, although Erin Pico is a very, very good wrestler, and I do think he's going to use some wrestling in this fight, rather than just trying to stand and bang with Corrales, because if he tries to trade shots with Corrales, he could get himself caught. He has to be as methodical as possible. Take the fight where there is least resistance. Corrales, even though he's not as technical as Erin Pico on the feet, he's very game and he's willing to exchange. He has good leg kicks as well, and Erin Pico doesn't really check kicks. He stands very heavy on his front leg, like many boxers do, but he does have that wrestling that I was saying that he should be going to. If Corrales goes for those leg kicks, he has to transition right to the double leg. Get Corrales off guard and just control him on the ground, potentially land ground and pound. And watch out for submissions, watch out for knee bars, watch out for the rolls, and just try to be as safe as possible when it comes to the ground. A big thing, though, that might give Pico some problems is Corrales is much better defensively in the striking game than he is offensively. He has extremely good balance. He pulls on punches very well. His footwork is very solid, not flashy or anything, but he knows where to move at all times, and all of these movements, all of these head movements can cause someone like Erin Pico to miss, but I don't think Erin Pico is going to be in that much trouble by the punches of Corrales. So that in itself, I believe, will give Pico a lot of problems, which is why I'm saying Pico should be going to the wrestling a lot more in this fight. I do see him missing some punches, and I do see him getting caught by some leg kicks, and all of that can be answered by some of the takedowns. And even if he's not getting the takedowns, just mix it up with his striking afterward, so he can find some more openings. On the feet, I think at the end of the day, Pico is just a much better boxer. Corrales doesn't really throw too many jabs, and that is the punch that Pico does get hit by most of all. Pico's always looking for the left hook, he's always looking for the uppercut, and also the right straight. But when he's looping in with that left hook to cover distance, the jab is open on him almost every single time, as well as a straight right hand. But Corrales really throws hooks for the most part. He loves to check the opponent with the left hook on their way in, but he does swing it a little bit too long to catch someone like Pico with the speed that Pico has. Pico's going to be much faster than Corrales. So in this fight, I'm going to go with Erin Pico. I'm going to go by a second round TKO, do it a ground and pound, and I do think this might be one of his toughest fights. And then we go to the main event, Fedor Emelianenko versus Ryan Bader for the heavyweight title. This fight has a lot of stakes on the line. If Fedor wins this fight, he can catapult himself as the greatest heavyweight of all time and cement him as that, because winning this tournament and beating a guy like Ryan Bader at this stage of his career does huge for his legacy, propels him all the way to the top, I believe. And if Ryan Bader can beat a guy like Fedor and become the 2-division champion in Bellator, that is his biggest accomplishment by far, and it credits himself as one of the elite light heavyweights in the world, as well as heavyweights. Now, the first thing I take notice in this fight is Fedor is probably going to be the better fighter in the first round. Ryan Bader, although he has a pretty good striker, he's pretty good with distance with his striking, and he has good wrestling, he doesn't mix it up that well, and he does have trouble with power punches early in fights. It's almost like he hesitates when to come in and when not to, and Fedor, I believe, can match Ryan Bader's speed. If not, outspeed him, and I believe Fedor hits much harder than Bader does. The only thing about Fedor is he doesn't really have the chin to take Bader's shots. And as you saw Ryan Bader fighting King Mo, that step-in left hook was absolutely lightning. Caught King Mo completely unexpected as King Mo's trying to go for a hook, and that is something Fedor always does. Fedor, although he's a lot more calculated on the feet than King Mo is, he always tries to look for the counter hooks as the opponent comes in on him, but he's a lot better with distance management doing that. Not so much in the Matt Mitrione fight, which can absolutely happen to him again, where he runs into a shot of Ryan Bader, but Fedor is usually able to pull on punches and land the hooks over the top, as well as some uppercuts. The only thing that worries me for Fedor is, if he gets caught early, I don't think he's going to recover. But the thing about Ryan Bader when he uses his wrestling, some people think he's going to be using his wrestling later in the fight, but how he's going to get Fedor tired if he's not going to drag on the fight in the first round, if he's not going to shoot in constantly. Fedor is an amazing grappler, an amazing judo artist, amazing sambo fighter, and you even saw in the Chael Sonnen fight, he still has it, man. Shooting in on him from far, especially the way Ryan Bader does, because Ryan Bader shoots from across the cage, doesn't really set them up a whole lot. You saw that in Anthony Johnson fight, and you saw that a lot in the Matt Mitrione fight. Fedor is going to have all the time in the world to time the takedown and just reverse the position, and I believe he can easily throw Ryan Bader over. And I believe Fedor is a much better grappler than Bader is. But Fedor is going to have to capitalize on those moments in the first round. I believe Fedor will gas out if he keeps grappling with a guy like Bader, who is bigger than Chael Sonnen, and Fedor was getting tired against Chael Sonnen at the end. Bader is good with the knees, he's good at timing them when the opponent's going for overhands, or even ducking down for takedowns like he caught Ilir Latifi with. Ilir Latifi is a very similar build to Fedor, and he's extremely fast as well, but Bader is able to time the dip, and that is something he absolutely can do against a guy like Fedor. But Bader sometimes runs into shots, and he's easily pressured at times. Fedor in this fight, he can't stay back a whole lot, he has to push the pace. He has to find his openings, create his openings on a guy like Bader, and pretty much just try to bully him in there. But another thing I can absolutely see is, very similar to the Anthony Johnson fight, Bader can shoot in, Fedor can stuff the takedown, and just land huge ground and pound, which Bader was very susceptible to against a guy like Anthony Johnson, and Fedor is probably the best or one of the best ground and pound artists of all time. So I am conflicted with this prediction because I think it can go either way. I think if it ends in the first round, Fedor knocks out Ryan Bader, but I think Bader should win the fight with the tools he has, right? It all comes down to game plan and how they approach the fight. I absolutely think Bader is going to have a hard time in the first round, but I think if it gets into the second and third rounds, I think Bader wins this fight. So if I'm going to have to make a prediction, it can go either way. So take that more than my actual prediction. I think Fedor is going to win the first round. I think if he wins the fight, it's going to be in the first round, and Bader is going to do better as the rounds go on. But my official prediction, man, I want to make it fun and just go with Fedor, but I'm going to go with Ryan Bader, man. How can you not? Fedor is just so out of it at this point, after seeing the Fabio Maldonado fight, after seeing him get dropped by Frank Mir so easily, after seeing him getting dropped by Matt Mitrione so easily. I think anything that Bader hits him with is going to really stun him. Like I said, Fedor's path to victory is to bully, is to push Bader back and impose his will on him early in the fight. I believe he can catch him doing that. But if he sits back and lets Bader, who is the taller fighter with better footwork and has the wrestling entries just to mix up the game, if he allows Bader to keep the distance on him like that, I don't think Fedor is going to win this one. So I'm going to go with Ryan Bader. I'm going to go by a second round TKO. So let's go to the betting odds to see if there's anything interesting. Jake Hager is about a 4-1 favorite. Erin Pico is about a 5.5-1 favorite. And Ryan Bader is about a 3-1 favorite. So we have big favorites on this one. I do think the newcomers, the new fighters in MMA, such as Hager and Keizer, anything could really happen. Keizer being that much of an underdog, he can absolutely land something. Erin Pico being that much of a favorite, I do think he should win the fight, but I think it's a much closer fight than that. And Fedor, if he doesn't get pressured, if he doesn't tire out, and if he could find his openings in the first round, I think he has a big chance of winning that fight. So it's absolutely tough, but there's a lot of opportunities on the betting odds. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the prediction video, and if you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you enjoyed my content, make sure to subscribe. If my voice sounds like it's a little bit weak right now, I apologize. I've been recording all day. I've been recording the podcast, the Nightmare matchups, and then this. I actually forgot that this Bellator card was happening this Saturday, and I saw a video about it, and I'm like, wait, Bellator is happening this Saturday, but should be a good one. The heavyweight tournament's about to end, and it was a fun tournament to watch, I'm not gonna lie. A lot of older fighters, a lot of light heavyweights, some middleweights, but it was fun and all. You saw a lot of veterans, and they put on some entertaining fights. My next video is going to be the podcast. It's going to come out tomorrow, probably late tomorrow night. So be lookout for that. I'm going to cover all the stuff, all the fights that have got announced, the whole John Jones thing, everything I'm going to discuss on that. And I can't wait to see your guys' questions. There's been a lot of questions, so I'm going to try to get through as many as possible within that hour frame. For any new viewers, if you guys don't know how to ask questions, you can go on my community tab under my YouTube page where I post questions for podcasting. You can answer questions under there. And the questions with the most likes do get read first. There's been a lot of questions on YouTube, so I do recommend you guys tweeting me your questions if you want a higher chance of me actually getting to it. And make sure to hashtag them MMA meeting. And remember, don't send me the questions on the comments of the videos. There's too many comments for me to go through to find your question. And then my nightmare matchup is going to come up probably Sunday, if not early next week. So be looking for that as well. And again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.